Apparently, there was a Dodger game on Sunday. We're going to talk about it. Let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. This is a daily fantasy podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us where you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And you can subscribe and make it easier on yourself because you'll get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live like we are here on Sunday night. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. You chose a great episode. My name is Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snyder. We've been doing this podcast here for 6 seasons now. We've been doing the Dodger podcast for longer than that. We've covered the team for a decade now in various capacities. We've been in the press box, been in the locker room. We've watched a lot of Dodger games. We've talked a lot about the Dodgers. And as we get into the beginning of this segment, it's one of those games where you don't really want to talk about the Dodgers unless you're trying to vent a lot of frustration or try to justify your feelings of how this can all turn around. And we're probably going to do a little bit of both of that. So let's get started, Jeff.
Yeah, usually after a game like this, this live episode is more of a therapy session than anything else. This was just ugly all around. I mean, there's silver linings you could find. 4 of the 6 home runs that the Padres hit came off of the Dodgers' low leverage relievers. I guess that's a silver lining. The fact is the offense scored 2 runs and one of them was in garbage time. They couldn't capitalize. They had chances. Obviously, bases loaded, nobody out. Only getting 1 run in was a big deal there. Mookie's home run getting robbed was a big deal. If just a couple things go differently, if that fan in left field wears a glove, so he beats Profar to that ball, so it's a home run for Mookie. And then if Edman hits that line drive, a foot higher, suddenly it's a totally different game, and you're not going to have Michael Grove and Edgardo Henriquez pitching. It's hard to say in a 10-2 loss that you just barely lost it. But there were things that could have happened differently early in this game, and the Dodgers couldn't capitalize. And credit to the Padres, all 3 of their outfielders made nice plays. Luis Arraez even made a nice play at first base. Like when Jurickson Profar and Luis Arraez both make nice defensive plays, you expect it from Tatis and Merrill because they're actually good defensive outfielders. But Profar and Arraez aren't good defenders, and they both made really good plays against the Dodgers tonight. It's one of those games where anything that could go wrong on the field did, and then off the field things got ugly too.
Yeah, we'll get more into everything that went beyond the field and into the stands. But it's one of those games where, as good as you felt yesterday, you might feel just as bad today, and that's really what the playoffs is like. Like we saw with the Dodgers as recent probably 2020 most recently, where they were down 2-0, and then they destroyed the Braves in Game 3 and then LCS, and you're like, okay. And then they lose Game 4, and then you're down 3-1, and you're like, okay, well, there went that momentum. And then, the Dodgers obviously ended up coming back with that series. But, it's one of those things where you automatically, in this one specifically, you think back to 2022. The Dodgers won Game 1, which is the game you would most have an advantage, at least in the starting pitcher front, you would hope, in terms of the division series and playing a wild card team. The Dodgers won that game, and they lose Game 2. Yeah, a lot of different things maybe could have changed this game, but ultimately what happened is what happened. The Padres had more home runs than the Dodgers had hits, and when your top of the order has 0 hits, obviously, even if the Mookie had 1, maybe that changes the dynamic of the game, but there's just a lot going on, and, for everything that's going on, when you look at it in terms of on the field and the players, Jack Flaherty's chirping, but he went deep into the game, but it wasn't necessarily the best start. The Dodgers were still in it at that point, and then it all kind of unraveled from there. And, we'll probably have different opinions here in the chat about, all that type of stuff and intensity and everything else. And all that type of stuff. But yeah, it's one of those where if you're living and dying with every game, every pitch, every inning, when it comes to October, you don't feel good after this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Manuel in the chat says that I use the phrase "what if" at least 5 times in every episode. So I'm going to give Manuel a homework assignment. Find any episode that I said "what if" 5 times. I've said it twice now in this episode, both in this last sentence. Our job is to talk about the game that just happened. And the fact is, you can come in here and say, well, they lost 10-2, so they lost by 8 runs. Talk to you next time. Or we can talk about what actually happened in the game. And yeah, it was frustrating. But, the fact is, things very well could have gone differently, and we don't know what would have happened in the game, and that's one of the things I love about baseball on days that aren't today is little things can flip it. And we've seen that work in the Dodgers' favor several times this year. And we've seen it, work against them. And it's frustrating when it works against them. Doesn't mean we should just bury our heads in the sand and say, oh, they lost by 8 runs. They must be the worst team. And I should just be depressed for the rest of my life now. The fact is, we're talking about a baseball game. And so we're going to talk about things that happened in the baseball game. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about Flaherty. It was kind of interesting. I don't know. When are we going to talk about the fans, Vince? We're going to do that now? We're going to talk about that later. Should we?
Yeah, let's go next segment on the fans.
We'll talk about the fans next segment. But, Flaherty, it was almost a quality start. It ended up 4 runs in 5 1/3. He had a chance, obviously in the 6th inning. He didn't have it. You got to get through 6 innings to have a quality start. And even a quality start of 6 innings and 3 runs isn't what you're looking for necessarily. But realistically, for this Dodgers team, if our starter gives us 6 innings and 3 runs, that's a game we should expect to win. And, if the Dodgers had gotten that from Yamamoto, they would have had a much easier time winning the game 1 of the series. It wasn't a terrible game for Flaherty. For me, the part that, I know bad pitches happen, but giving up a home run to David Peralta after we watched, knowing everybody on the Dodgers knows all the holes in David Peralta's swing, that one was frustrating for me. Just, not inexcusable. And pitchers make bad pitches, but that's the one that Peralta, seriously?
It was the Jack Flaherty starts we've been getting ever since he got traded. There's a couple anomalies here and there, but it's around 5 or 6 innings, maybe sometimes a little bit more laborious than other times. And he gives up 1 or 2 home runs, one for sure that he shouldn't have given up, and then maybe another one by a good pitch, good hitter, bad pitch, good hitter, whatever it is. It wasn't anything special. It was, we thought, we can count it as special in the terms of the Dodgers just because they haven't had a guy going to the 6th inning since 2021. They haven't had a pitcher really have any success the last 2 postseasons at all. And, you chalk it up to, well, yeah, the Padres are good, but also you can be better. You have to be better. And, leaving a 1-2-0-2 pitch over the middle of the plate to Peralta, a little bit of a hanger, that's a bad pitch. And, from what we've seen and not what we've seen, but what it feels like as a Dodger fan is that every mistake pitch is getting hit for a home run or hard. Now that's not the case. Machado's missed a couple mistake pitches and, so and some other guys. But I think the other part with Flaherty and with Dodgers in general is just they're down every time. The last 7 games or 6 games or 5 games now, they've been down in the 1st or 2nd inning. And it's hard to always have to climb out of that. Ohtani brought the fans back into it in game 1, and they, got close to bringing the fans fully back into it. That it was one of those, they had Darvish on the ropes. They got the 1 run from Lux, and then, Edman hits it well, but just a little bit too low, and it ends up being a double play. And now you get 1 run, and then Darvish ends up going 7 innings. And, it's little things here and there, but it's just, yeah, frustrating as a Dodger fan. And it's one of those where this is why the stereotypes and everything that people say and everything else comes to it, because it just feels like this is a game that we've seen before. Maybe not to the extent of 10-2, but it's you had the guy on the ropes early, you didn't score, the other pitcher dominates you. They make good plays on defense, and you're just come on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Troy in the chat says, can you guys talk about how over our last 8 playoff games, we've given up a 1st inning run in 6 of the 8, and we've lost 7 of those 8. For me, the one thing I would say is that's over 3 years, and those 8 games were started by 7 different pitchers. And so it's is it something about the uniform, or, that's the part I don't know what the answer is. But it's not, you look at the individual games. I don't know. I think I am less inclined to see trends across multiple years of multiple different players and everything than some people are. But yeah, whatever it is as a fan,
I guess the one thing you could say about it, is that maybe the game plan falls to what they normally do, and maybe that's what the other teams are attacking and waiting for. But other than that, like, I don't think that's the case. I'm just saying, like, that could be the one trend, I guess, where it's been the same catcher, same pitching staff, and maybe that's the thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So the fans played a part in this game, not necessarily the part we would have liked them to play. We'll get into all that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by arenaclub.com. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Luka, Ellie, or Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. If you love collecting, that's a lot of money to drop just for that. So thanks to Slap Packs from arenaclub.com, it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price, because every card that I just listed with Luka, Ellie, and Mahomes hit last week's Arena Club Slap Pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all baseball cards, or all cards, and clear hit rates for each one. The Arena Club Slap Packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. We all love transparency, and after your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safe keeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with the full grade rationale provided and an explanation of how your card was scored. So whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. Go get a mystery pack, get your transparent world in, or get your card world into the transparent world right now. And right now you can get 10% off your first Slap Pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb, code LOCKEDONMLB for 10% off your first purchase. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen or your last listen here on Sunday night. I know we're going live a lot of these days, especially after these playoff games, so we appreciate you being with us. If you can't check us out live, then you're probably listening to us wherever you get podcasts or YouTube after the fact. So we appreciate you there. You can subscribe on either of those platforms and get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. Locked On Dodgers Postcast with Host Peace Fox is available on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel live after most Dodger games. All right, Jeff. From the first inning, the fans seemingly played a part in this game, and it just kind of went downhill from there along with the rest of the game. In that first inning, Mookie Betts hit a ball that we all thought was a home run, and then it wasn't because Jerks and Profar caught it and was taunting the fans. They showed the up close slow-mo of it, and the fans in that front row were getting out of the way or didn't have a glove or didn't make the strongest effort to claim their territory out there in the outfield. And then later on in the game, as the game started getting out of hand, Profar, Tatis, a little bit of taunting fans apparently threw the baseball that were reported from social media is that Profar threw the ball out there to fans like normal. They threw it back, and then there was trash being thrown on the field, and Tatis continued to taunt the fans. And it was one of those things where, Dodger fans probably have an overall negative connotation, stereotype, whatever you want to call it. And this didn't help too much in that round.
Yeah, my big issue with what happened tonight is that the fans in the bleachers gave Manny Machado the moral high ground. And that is something like, if you give Manny Machado a moral high ground, like one of the sleaziest players in baseball history, if you force people to say, oh, well, Manny has the moral high ground this time, you really messed up. And, because the fact is, yes, this started with, I probably started with Profar, taunting the fan. That fan deserves to be taunted for not bringing a glove. You're sitting in those seats, bring a dang glove. But then it really started with them whining and crying about Tatis getting hit by a pitch. Yet again, Jerks and Profar being clueless about what baseball means And why would you throw at Tatis there in that situation? But they just, like, those two guys specifically, they have to play with a chip on their shoulder. That is how they get themselves fired up. I wish they could do it more internally, find some self-esteem or something. But they have to get a chip on their shoulder. So they had to get mad about Tatis getting hit by a pitch. That got them chirping. That got Flaherty chirping back. That got things riled up. But all of that happened on the baseball field between baseball players. Fans in the stands are there to watch the baseball players do their thing. As soon as the fans start getting involved, Saturday night we had the idiot fans jumping on the field, delaying the game when the Dodgers pitcher is warming up. This time it's a delay while Darvish is warming up. There is no excuse to throw things on the field at the game. That's the bottom line. And that's the frustrating part because people use the word embarrassing a lot. I never use the word embarrassing when we're talking about what happens at a Dodger game because I firmly believe I cannot be embarrassed by the way a stranger plays baseball. And so if the Dodgers have a bad game, it's not embarrassing to me. If Dodger fans act like that, it's a little embarrassing to me because that's what I am. I'm a Dodger fan, and Dodger fans look bad tonight. And yeah, you can talk all about why it started. And, in this day and age, it's hard to actually accept the fact that there's blame on both sides, even though there's almost always blame on both sides. There's definitely things that Profar and Machado and Tatis could and should have done differently in this game that probably would have kept this from happening. That doesn't change the fact that there's no excuse. It's not an excuse to act like that. And it is embarrassing as Dodger fans, as especially those like we're constantly defending Dodger fans, like there was the Brian Stowe incident. And really that was guys who were looking for a fight and went to a Dodger game, and that's usually what this is. It's idiots. And I've been to games in 33 major league stadiums. I've seen drunk idiots in 33 major league stadiums. I've seen people do things they absolutely would not do in their regular life, but they do it at a stadium. And I've seen that at every stadium I've been to. Doesn't make it right. And it's frustrating when it's my stadium. Like Dodger Stadium is my favorite place in the world. I go there with my kids all the time. I feel totally safe there with my children, my kids, like outsiders talk about Dodger Stadium like it's this dangerous place to go to a game with her. And it's not. And those of us who've been to Dodger Stadium know it's not. Like 99.9% of the people who run into trouble at Dodger Stadium are looking for trouble. And even the fans of opposing teams who talk about, I was treated really poorly. I've watched so many Dodger fans hug fans with other jerseys on because they weren't being a-holes. Like it's a great place. We all love baseball. Dodger Stadium is a great place to be. And things like tonight make people think that the stereotypes about Dodger Stadium are true when they're not.
Yeah, for me, it's, I surprisingly more than I thought. People, maybe not so much on the Dodger fans side, Dodger fans on Dodger fans side, but using the taunting and the, everything else as part of an excuse for what happened. I've sat in left field pavilion before, and, there's been times where you heckle the left fielder and, he'll give it back to you. I remember one time back in the day, Carlos Lee hit a home run and came back out to left field and kind of, said what's up to the crowd. And, they jeered him on and kept heckling him, but that was it. And obviously a lot of this is most of the time alcohol fueled. So it's not a pass, but I guess that's literally what the issue is. But for me, it's just like, yeah, heckle, talk, whatever. Yeah, I guess even some poor language I could be okay with as long as it's not too crazy, just because that's the nature of what it is. Like, it's going to be like that. It's going to happen. But I don't care how much like Profar taunts and Tatis taunts, like they're winning. At that point, they're winning. At that point, they did things to help their team win. And yeah, they're going to get the crowd into it. And, whether it's for their own, like you said, having a chip on the shoulder, whether it's just, they like it, whether it's a rivalry in the moment right now, I guess is what I would call it. It's an in the moment rivalry. These things pop up here and there. It's not a generational rivalry, but it's an in the moment rivalry for sure. And yeah, it's one of those where the fact that everything kind of fell apart after all this, and the Dodgers, the Merrill homered and Tatis homered and Higgy homered and like all these guys homered, and the Dodgers went out without doing much on offense. It was just one of those things where it all added up to just like a bad night. Like, it was just like, that was not fun to be a part of in any form or way.
Yeah, as fans, yell and scream all you want, taunt all you want, for sure. And I mean, even like talk about somebody's mom. Like, you don't actually know his mom, like that's fine. Don't throw things on the field. Don't be a racist. That's basically the two places where I draw the line. Anything else, go for it. Like, have an intense, fun environment. It's not for everybody, but that's fine. But yeah, definitely lines crossed. And the frustrating part is it's 10 people probably. Like, it's not like there was like the field was covered with stuff. It was one person threw a ball that, maybe they were throwing at him. Maybe they were just throwing it back on the field. Who knows? And then some garbage in right field. It's like, and the night before it was 2 people. We're talking 106,000 people in the stands the last 2 nights, and 12 people have made Dodger fans look bad. And that's frustrating.
Yeah. So back to on the field stuff. We haven't even mentioned Freddie Freeman's name, who didn't finish this game. The Dodger offense only had 5 hits, and one of those runs and hits came in the 9th inning once the game was out of hand. So we'll look forward. We'll talk about the offense, and then we'll look forward a little bit and see what the Dodgers can do in order to keep the series going. Only 2 more games. We're going to go 2 more games regardless, so hopefully they end it in 2 more games. But we're going to get into all that, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. And thank you for making Locked On Dodgers first assistant. And now this show is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, yeah. Playoffs are here. The Dodgers are heading to San Diego this week, so why not explore San Diego like you always wanted to learn more about, or you've already been there and you know that it's a pretty great city in general, because with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay even in San Diego during the postseason. Maybe it's time to check out the city, or if you're going to travel anywhere, it doesn't have to be your rival or your postseason rivals city, but you can check out anywhere because Booking.com's got a wide variety of choice across the U.S. You can go check out all the cities around the way. Booking.com delivers exactly what the right U.S. stay for you is. Booking.com can help you book a stay that's close to the stadium if you're going to watch a game, that's close to an event if you're going to an event, or that just covers whatever needs and wants you have when you're going on a vacation. So no matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Booking.com has all the choices across the U.S. The right stay can make you a fan, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, yeah. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans, season is 5 weeks into it now, and you can start with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can always check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's FanDuel.com. And right now, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. One of those bets can be putting $5 on the Dodgers to win in the next game, or $5 on Walker Buehler to have so many strikeouts or so many innings or whatever else you can put down, or maybe a combination of those, whatever it is. $5, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Let's head over to FanDuel.com and get started. Want to thank you for being an everydayer if you are one. If you're not one, you can become one by starting to listen or watch every day. We're here for you the rest of the way this October and the rest of the way beyond that. We're going to talk Dodgers every Monday through Friday or Sunday through Thursday if we're going live. So make sure to check us out, and you'll be on the podcast from a Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Locked On Dodgers Insider gets text directly from us with any news, updates, thoughts, all that type of stuff when it comes in regard to the Dodgers. And we got some positivity in here. Dodgers in 5.
Positivity coming from him too. That's why to put it up. Los Dodgers World Series champs is not always our most positive commenter here in the chat. So I'm liking that. I'm happy for a little optimism from him specifically.
Yeah, optimism for sure. That we might touch on or break into that optimism a little bit right now. Freddie Freeman came out of the game with right ankle discomfort, obviously the same ankle that he hurt in that series against the Padres. If it was when the game was already out of hand, then it would have been okay. The Dodgers wanted to get him off his feet. It was before the game got completely out of hand in terms of the Dodgers still having a relatively good chance of coming back. So I don't know, Jeff. Concerning, is it one of those where with the day off tomorrow, maybe they just whatever it was, or the pain medicine or whatever he had just didn't hit the same this day.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a combination of things. I would guess if they were up 3-2 at the time, he would have stayed in the game. And not like the game was over at that point, but you kind of weigh it. Okay, we're down 4-1. He's got maybe 2 at bats left. You factor in, okay, how much better is he than Kike? How, it was unlikely that Freddie being in the lineup instead of Kike for those last 2 at bats was going to make a difference of 3 runs. So either the offense was going to come back or it wasn't. That, I guess that's kind of what I'm hoping it was. It was kind of a tactical decision. It was a little bit early, a close game to do that. But, if he is, he was legitimately questionable to play at all in these 2 games. And so it might be a case of, all right, we're going to get everything we can from him, but we are going to look for opportunities to get him off the field, and being down 4-1 in the 5th inning, whatever, was the right time. I guess we'll know more on Tuesday when we see if his name is in the lineup. Kike ended up hitting the ball hard, and it wasn't, didn't hit it quite as hard as Freeman did. Freeman had the hardest hit ball of the day for the Dodgers. By the way, there was before we started, there was a bunch of talk about Max Muncy, and I'm not sure where the Muncy hate's coming from. Like I get, he has struggled a little bit. Dodgers had 5 hits. He had 2 of them. And yes, one of them was a garbage time home run, but Muncy had 3 of the 6 hard hit balls for the Dodgers today were Muncy. 2 of their 3 hardest hit balls were by Muncy. Like, I don't know why he was the choice of the day to pick on, but if Muncy has to play first and Kike has to play third, it's not the end of the world. It's going to be a tough day. I'd definitely rather have Freddie in the lineup against Michael King on Tuesday. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, we'll see there again. Freddie had a couple hits in game 1. And I don't want to minimize his offensive production, but there could be a steeper drop off, in terms of potential, I guess, more so than, Kike is definitely a more potential over substance type of guy. Like, he's not going to give you anything for sure, but he could have a 2-homer game, or he could have a game where, he has 4 hits and Muncy had a bad game 1, had a good game 2. Hopefully, that means that he's going to have a great game 3. We can only wait there. But I think with the Dodgers, we talked about the offense having to carry things if they were going to win in October. And I wouldn't say this game is a reason why, because you wouldn't have it would have took 3-4 runs to make the Dodgers have to use their better relievers. It wouldn't have took like a miracle. And to say that the Dodgers, if they would have scored 9 runs and still lost, it would be disingenuous in the sense of
Michael Grove wouldn't have pitched.
Depending when those 9 runs were scored. Like if they had scored 7 runs in the 8th and 9th inning, once the game was already 10-1 or whatever, then okay, maybe a little more understandable, but not in that sense. But it comes down to the top of the order. And, Shohei Ohtani had the big home run, had the little bloop single, hasn't done much beyond that. Mookie Betts is in a stretch of not hitting over the last 2 postseasons. He did get a home run rob, but, he didn't really come close to getting a hit beyond that. Freddie Freeman had a couple hits in game 1, didn't have a hit in this one, but, not too much. Teo had the big hit. But it's just like, you look at the other side of it, and Machado, he had the homer in game 1, but overall this postseason, he's hitting 176. But you look at Tatis, like his OPS right now in the postseason is over 2,000. Like it's one of those things where, and then you have Higashioka, who's all of a sudden, a guy that's hitting the cover off the ball and has 3 homers this postseason. Jackson Merrill's a young kid that's holding it down for them. Bogarts hasn't been good overall, but he's been good against the Dodgers. He's had a couple big hits now. And it's one of those where, yeah, it's one game. And, just as high as we were yesterday, we can get maybe not that low today, but it is going to take the offense to, have, I don't know, better at bats, but have better results.
Yeah. This series was always going to be about, can the offense carry them? And they definitely didn't today. And we talked about ways where it could have been a little closer, and, who knows what would have happened. But the fact is they lost this game because the offense didn't score and the low leverage relievers let the game get out of hand. And now they're going to have to they're going to have to step up against Michael King. And, we have another episode tomorrow when there's not a game to talk about. So we'll probably dig more into that particular matchup, and really the rest of the series. It's going to be Michael King against Walker Buehler. That on paper definitely favors the Padres. So the Dodgers are going to have to do something about that because, the game's not played on paper. And we've learned that the hard way many times at Dodger fans. And I've said this many times this year, usually it's a bad thing for us that the game's not played on paper. This series, it's a good thing because, both teams have to come out and play, and Michael King has to execute. And, there have been times this year against the Dodgers when he hasn't executed. There's also been times when he has. So, we'll see what happens. But all in all, the offense is going to need to step up. Obviously, getting a good start from Buehler would be really nice. Who knows what to expect there. But, the offense is going to have to score more than 2 runs. That's my theory for how the Dodgers are going to win this series.
Yeah, and obviously, we talk a lot about intensity and all that type of stuff, and I don't think it's an intensity question, but I do think there's something about having an inning or having a game where you're throwing the first punch. And, I talked in the first series or the last series of the season against the Padres where they're playing for the division and, talking with a lot of people around the stadium. And I was like, yeah, they need a shutdown inning in the first and they need to go score first. And the Dodgers did do that in the first game, but it was almost one of the worst ways to score where they scored, like they had runners on base, but only got 1. And it was not because of them hitting the ball or whatever. It was like an error, whatever the case. It was the error. They scored the run. It's one of those where it's not going to decide the ultimate matter of the game. But the Dodgers coming out and scoring 2-3 runs in the top of the first on Tuesday is going to just make a little bit of a difference in the sense of, oh, yeah, we can do this. We can score first. We are the Dodgers. And, people are going to
Michael King's not invincible.
Yeah. People are going to have different opinions. But I do think there's a mentality of throwing the first punch and showing that, okay, you guys, we won the first game. You guys won the second game. Let's make this third game a game.
Yep, absolutely. I see we've reached the point in the chat where people are blaming Dave Roberts for the 10-2 loss. So I guess that means we're about done here, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those firing up a team. We saw the team that won it last year had a manager that doesn't fire it up. People love Tommy Lasorda. Tommy Lasorda won 2 World Series 7 years apart in a time where it was a lot easier to make the World Series. Like firing up, I think it's more effective in younger kids because you get them into the game. Maybe for the Dodgers, they can fire themselves up. Like they should be embarrassed of the game that just got played on Sunday, and they should want to win for a lot of different reasons. But one of those reasons is that they're their job and they want to win at their job and be the best at their job. And
Turns out there's more to baseball than wanting it.
Yeah,
you also have to hit the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Hitting the ball, the offense coming through, that's going to be the big part of it. The Dodgers have at least 2 games left in their season, hopefully more. We will be back tomorrow to talk about the matchup with Michael King, any other news on Freddie or whatever else we get, and kind of what a bullpen plan would look like with the arms that didn't pitch today and the arms that would be available, knowing that, Landon Knack is pitching in Game 4, and it's, the different strategies, I guess, of attacking a Game 3. So we'll get into all that. You got anything else, Jeff?
Nope, that's it.
All right, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. You can subscribe and get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube, like we are here. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. The Locked On Dodgers Postcast with host Pete Fox is available live after most Dodger games. I'd imagine after a lot of these Dodger games now in the postseason. You can check that out live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. Beyond the podcast, come on Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us with any updates or thoughts or anything else regarding the Dodgers if you can't keep up with them during the day. You can also find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vince91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send us an email, LockedOnDodgers@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail or send us a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning and hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Turn Smart Advice Play Podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.